Hey everybody, my name is Marcel. I'm the co-founder of Tusk. We're an open source testing platform that turns your production traffic into realistic unit and API tests. So we do this with OpenTelemetry, rolling our own instrumentations on top of it. And so many of you here might be familiar with tools like Sentry, Signos, or other observability tools. We do something similar, but we record the traces in a way that can be replayed as API tests. This way, you test your code changes and PRs against real user behavior in the real world. So recently, we've actually built out an MCP server that allow you to access this observability data directly through your form factor of your choice, whether it's Cursor or Claude. And this allows you to debug errors with more context, as well as optimize performance. Now, the one thing that makes us different from why not just use the Sentry MCP, why not just use Sentry, is that we also record the response bodies. And so this way, we're able to record the full request chain and make it so that you do not need to mock any external dependencies or API responses when you're testing your APIs. Simply put, you don't need to write or maintain an API test again. Now, just to show you what this looks like, so we do record the response bodies, and I wanted to show you an example from a weather app. So shout out to Inkeep. And so we do record the response output. So this is helpful in the case where, for example, if you're working in a fintech and your checkout API is failing, Sentry or any sort of observability tool does not record the response body, so they let you know of error metadata that there is an error, but you don't exactly know why it's an error. And because we actually have access to this data, you can use this via the MCP to provide Claude and Cursor ways to basically debug with better visibility. So I want to show you a quick demo. Nothing crazy about the MCP server. You would just essentially add it to your Claude config file or your mcp.json. But I wanted to show you this in an example repo. Again, this is a weather app that gives you activity recommendations based on the weather, which sounds very familiar. And so the way you would set up Tusk is we are an SDK that you would essentially install and initialize on your service. So this is a Python repo of a Flask backend. So what I would do to set this up is run one command, which is tusk setup. And once I run this, it's going to take you to a TUI with a little nice animation right here. And once I hit this, it's going to basically detect the language, analyze the compatibility of your libraries that we're instrumenting, and then set up the SDK and instrument it, as well as verify that it works with a health check. I'm not going to go through this full thing since I've already done it in advance of the demo, so I'll pause this right now. And so what this does is that I can basically then start my server in record mode. And the way I would do it is running Tusk Drift mode equals record, and then my server start command right here. Awesome. So now we should see that the server is started with the SDK initialized. And so I can go in, and I'm just going to copy and paste and make some manual API calls to basically record this locally. Now, if you're using Tusk Cloud, we would basically export the spans to our backend. And so then you can basically use that as a way of self-maintaining the test suite. For the sake of the demo, I'm just going to make these API calls. So I just want you to watch out on this left-hand side right here. You should see the traces being recorded. So in this case, this is the weather activity endpoint I just showed you, and we show all the spans. So unlike tools like maybe you might be familiar with MITM proxy, we don't just record the HTTP requests. We actually also record things like gRPC, GraphQL, your database queries, and Redis. I know this might scare you, but we do have PII Redaction built in, so don't worry about it. Awesome. So now I've recorded this. Like, what does that look like when I actually want to run the tests? If I go back to this terminal right here, and then let me kill the server real quick. Now, if I run tusk list from our CLI, you can basically see the same thing that I showed you from within the Cloud app. You can see the request and response bodies. And you can choose each trace to replay if you need to. But what I like to do is just run tusk run. And this runs the full test suite and shows you if there are any deviations. In this case, I've not made any code changes, so obviously no deviations. But if you were to get a deviation, for example, if I run tusk checkout buggy branch and run tusk run, you should now see that there is a deviation, and we do actually show you the deviation. Now, in this case, it's because we changed the weather recommendation because of a Celsius conversion. So this is obviously a regression and something we should fix. Now, how does this work in the MCP? So just to give you some context to set this up, this is a weather app. We give you activity recommendations. I have noticed sometimes it's pretty wonky when it's actually recommending activities based on coastal environments. So if I actually open this up, I'll show you right now how the MCP works. I have it configured, so if I run that, it's going to basically call certain tools right now to query spans, aggregate the spans, as well as understand the schema of the API calls. So in this case, it's listing the distinct traces that I have in my backend. Then it's going to go through and look at the exact trace. And then it's going to basically go through and decide, OK, in this case, I'm not going to show you the full run, but if I actually show you in a previous run, one of the bugs here that is related to the response body, and this is, again, something that Sentry wouldn't catch, is that it's finding out that some of the past traffic going through this endpoint mentions Denver, Colorado as a city, or mentions Bogota, Colombia. And it's saying that is coastal is equals true, which any of you might know here that both cities are landlocked. And so this is a bug that you could really only catch if you're looking at the response body. It's not going to show up as an error that Sentry gives you in your Slack alerts. So in this case, what I can do is just basically say use the overpass API to properly determine if a city is coastal. And so then obviously this goes through Claude or a coding agent like Cursor and generates the fix for me. But the bottom line is you would not get this visibility into the specific bug without having the Tusk Drift SDK recording, replaying the traces, and showing you the response bodies. So very quickly, I just wanted to put up a QR code. You can scan it right now. And so in order to use the MCP, you would right now need a Tusk API key that you can get through signing up for a free account. We're soon going to be adding a way to OAuth using Auth0, so very relevant to this event. And we're going to be behind backstage by the center, and we have really cool swag. We have this exclusive AI babysitter cap that, as you can see, has product market fit. So come by. It's exclusive. We only have like 6 left. So yeah, come by, say hi, talk to us about our MCP or automated testing in general. Thank you so much.